It's really an insult to my own intelligence that I have to make a video like this. But a lot of people in these spaces do not understand the difference between race, ethnicity, and nationality. And people often get these three mixed together. And one example of this is this Latino is not black argument. You know, what's going on, Shaw Willie? Is this Latino is not black argument. And you have so many people in these spaces who would argue this point so up and down, and they're serious when they argue this point. That's what disturbs me the most, when people are serious when they argue this stupid point, because they're conflating ethnicity and race. Now, before I move on, let's just keep it real that there's no such thing as an actual black person. I mean, once again, it's a damn shame that I have to say this, because in my wacky world, this shit is common sense. That like nobody in this world is the actual color black. You know, you could take even the darkest so-called black person and put their skin against something that's the color black, and you will see the difference. Every human being in this world are either different shades of brown or different shades of pink, okay? And not only that, but why in the world is our group, the racial group that I belong to, you know, melanated people with melanated skin, coarse hair, broad nose, thick lips, high elevated cheekbones, how come that out of all these groups of people, we're the only group of people whose label is a fucking color that we don't fit the description of? Now, well, actually, I could take that back, because Caucasian people are considered white and they don't fit the description of an actual white person. But nonetheless, specifically in the United States of America, when a lot of people would use the term black to identify not only the racial group that they belong to, but also the ethnic group that they belong to. And the thing is with that is that when you use the term black to label the ethnic group that you belong to, it shows that you don't really know who you really are, because there's no real true ethnic group that's labeled as a color. Your own ancestors, the true ancestors, never labeled themselves as a color. So technically speaking, there's no such thing as a so-called black person. But nonetheless, in the 21st century, this label is used to identify a certain group of people. So let's use that. You know, what's going on, everybody? AO, Serb Yahoo, DJ Sharingan, Joe W, Psycho Candy, Kevin Kelly, Just DeAndre. What's going on, y'all? You know, and the thing is that Latino is not a race. It's an ethnic group. So-called black is currently used to label a certain race of people, right? And what is race? What is race? Race is a subgroup of human beings based upon their phenotype. So if you fit a specific phenotype, you belong to a specific subcategory of human beings. Now, what is ethnicity? Ethnicity is the culture or tribe that a human being belongs to. Ethnicity has nothing to do, and culture is, you know, when it comes to culture is not at all the time Well, okay, when it comes to culture, it's possible that different cultures can consist of people of different races. For example, the Latino culture, right? So an ethnic group is a tribe, or more specifically, a culture that human beings belong to. That's what makes that person's ethnicity. All right. And a specific culture can consist of multiple races of people. And in the Latino culture, you have multiple races of people, including so-called black people. And two of these people who are in the chat are examples of that, which is Third World Colombian and Joe W. Okay? And if you clearly see, and they both have their pictures up, and if you clearly see their phenotype, you could tell that they're a bunch of niggas. Excuse my language. So when I see a lot of people on the internet who will say some stupid ass shit like, you're Latino, you're not black, nigga, you stupid. Okay? You're conflating race with ethnicity. Or when people would say, well, this person is Cuban, they're not black. Once again, you're conflating two different things, and you show that you're stupid. You're conflating nationality with race. And let's define nationality. What is nationality? Well, to make it simple, nationality is defined as the country of citizenship that a person belongs to, right? American, that is a nationality. And what is an American? Someone who is a citizen of the United States of America. Canadian, that is a nationality. And who identifies as a Canadian? People who are citizens of the country of Canada. And just like both in the United States of America and in Canada, you got people of different racial groups and people of different ethnic groups who are citizens of both of these countries. So, if you are a citizen of Canada, it doesn't take away from you being a so-called black person or a so-called white person. If you are a citizen of Canada, it doesn't take away from you being of Latino descent. If you are a citizen of the United States, being a citizen of the United States or an American does not take away from you being Cherokee Indian. That is, if you are Cherokee Indian. It doesn't take away from you being of Latino descent if you are of Latino descent. So if you are, and now that if you are an American or a citizen of the United States of America, it does not take away from you being a so-called black person or so-called white person. It does not take away from you being of so-called Asian descent, or more specifically Chinese descent, or what have you, right? The same thing when it comes if you or your family members come from any country in Latin America. If somebody's from Cuba, they probably born and or a citizen of the country of Cuba. But the country of Cuba consists of people of many different racial groups, aka subgroups of human beings based upon their phenotype. You got so-called black people in Cuba. You have so-called white people in Cuba. You have so-called quote-unquote mixed race people in Cuba. Hell, you even have people who are of Asian descent that lives in the country of Cuba. But if you are a citizen and or born in the country of Cuba, does that take away from the racial group that you belong to? No, it does not. Therefore, you can be a so-called black person and be from Cuba. I mean, like I said, this is an insult to my intelligence when I have to explain this shit. It's an insult to my own intelligence when I have to explain this shit to a bunch of adults who should already know this shit. This shit should be common fucking sense. Oh, this person ain't black, they're Dominican. The overall majority of people within the Dominican Republic belong to the subcategory of human beings called black people. They belong to that specific racial group. But does it take away from them being Dominican? No, because what is a Dominican? It's a nationality, which is labeled, in which the people who are citizens of the country of the Dominican Republic are labeled as Dominican. So does your country of citizenship take away from what race you belong to? No, it does not. So I don't get why a lot of you people in so-called black YouTube in general try to take someone's blackness away just because them or their parents come from a Latin American country. You niggas are fucking stupid. A lot of y'all stupid, man. What's going on, Renaissance Man 2008? What's up, Toy the Tutor? What's up, NYC Rico Tico? Yes, a large part of Latin America is black, including the country of Brazil, that is actually proven to have the largest concentration of so-called black people outside of the continent of Africa. So there's more so-called black people in Brazil than there are within the United States of America. So are so-called black people in Brazil not so-called black people because they're from a Latin American country? No. The country that they're born in, the country that they're citizens of, does not remove which racial group that they belong to. So when I often hear a bunch of dumbasses say, hey, these people are not black, they're Brazilian. I'm like, nigga, you're comparing, it's a false equivalency, a fallacy, because you're comparing two things that don't equate with each other. You're comparing a racial group to a nationality. You're comparing apples and oranges. You can be of a certain, you can belong to a certain racial group in which we all belong to a specific racial group, and at the same time be a citizen of a certain country. This is common sense. And once again, this is an insult to my own intelligence when I have to explain this to adults. Yes. Dominican Republic and Haiti at one point in time used to be one country. Yes, that's true. That's very true. NYC Rico Tico says, the new face of Latinos were Europeans escaping war crimes for centuries. Yeah, that's true. That's true. DeJaris agreeing with Third World Colombian. Third World Colombian said, I meant to say Dominican Republic and Haiti used to be one country. Yeah, it's true. Renaissance Man 2008 says, these folks don't know history and it shows. Truth be told, they don't know shit about the world. The one drop rule doesn't exist outside America, but that goes over there. Yeah, over their heads. Yeah, that goes over their heads. Yeah, it goes over their heads. Yeah. My gosh. My gosh, man. I can't believe what type of how stupid people are. Let me show you this picture in my background. Let me show you guys this picture. I'll show you this picture. I'm going to show you guys this picture in my background. Damn, I can't even show you guys this shit. You know what? I don't even know. Man. Hold on for a minute. Let me show you guys this shit. All right. You know, I just removed myself for a little while for you guys can see the picture in my background. Clearly, you see three so-called black females, right? But according to the logic of most of these idiots on these in these spaces, these three females are not so-called black people, being that they're Latinos. Those three females that you see in my background are so-called black females from the country of Colombia, quote unquote Afro Colombians. And you clearly see based on their phenotype which racial group that they belong to. But according to this Latino is not black narrative, these three people are not so-called black people. According to that narrative, the only way you could be a so-called black person is if you and your ancestors was born in the United States of America. As if so-called black people during the transatlantic slave trade was not shipped all over the world. You know, I mean, I thought it was called the transatlantic slave trade for a reason, because we were shipped all across the Atlantic, right? Not just one place. That's what I thought. But no. But according to that narrative, you have to be your parents, your grandparents, your great grandparents, and so forth have to be from the United States of America in order to be so-called black people. Doesn't matter how dark your skin complexion is. It doesn't matter how nappy your hair is. It doesn't matter how broad your nose is. It doesn't matter how thick your lips are. It doesn't matter how much you look like Wesley Snipes. But if you look like Wesley Snipes and you speak Spanish, you're not a so-called black person. Why? Because you look like Wesley Snipes and you speak Spanish according to that retarded ass narrative. These people are fucking stupid. And before any jackass put this ad hominem on me saying, "Oh, the wacky word, oh, you must be Latino yourself." No, I'm not Latino. I'm not Hispanic. All right. I do not belong to that ethnic group. I'm just defending the fucking truth. The obvious truth. A lot of people in this motherfucker are fucking stupid. They're dumb. You know, in the title, I say that some people need to read a book, but I don't think a lot of people know how to read. Thank you, Rico NYC Rico Tico. I think this is Tico Trend, right? Is this Tico Trend? I think this is Tico Trend, right? Or if it's not, then hey, I apologize if I mistake you for somebody else, right? Yeah, this is a good point, a very good point. A lot of the ADOS ancestors were shuffled from country to country. That is absolutely true. If you study the transatlantic slave trade, you would know that a lot of so-called black people that were sent to the United States were sent from country to country before they hit the United States. A lot. Listen, during the transatlantic slave trade, a lot of slaves was sold back tree that was shipped to Louisiana from the island of Haiti. clear? Yo, if I'm loud and clear, press 1. Press 1 if I'm loud and clear. Okay, Captain Jane pressed 1. She again. What the fuck? Wow. Damn, I was on a roll too, man. Shit. What type of shit is this? Damn. Matthew McMittens, what's up? I should be clear now. Let me know if I'm clear. I should be clear now. Damn, this shit's fucking me up, man. Damn. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know if it's my fucking, if it's my modem or if it's my router that's wrong, man. Because I've been having this connection issue for like about a week now. Damn. Oh, I'm clear. I'm good now. All right. Excuse my language, man. Because this stuff is getting on my nerves. Because I'm sitting there paying every month for this internet connection, and then I always get some. It always every once in a while fuck up on me and shit. Damn. All right, I'm clear. All right, cool. Thank you. What was I gonna say? Damn. Yeah, but let me go back to what Tico was saying. Oh, you another guy. Okay. He said, nah, another guy. Okay. You another guy. All right. So you're not Tico Trent. All right. So yeah. The black man who started the Salem witch trials was from the Caribbean. Yeah. Yeah. And what anybody was going on, Callie Jane, what's up? But what NYC Rico Tico, what somebody else was saying, I think it was Renaissance Man 2008 that was saying that, right? How during the transatlantic slave trade, slaves were shipped from different parts of the world before they went to America. Like a lot of slaves during the transatlantic slave trade went from West Africa to the Caribbean, to from the West Africa to the Caribbean to South America, and then up to the United States of America. Yeah. Once again, if y'all didn't hear me before, I'm going to repeat myself again. During the transatlantic slave trade, a whole lot of slaves up here to the confines of what we now call the United States of America went from West Africa to the Caribbean to South America and then up to the United States of America. And once again, a lot of slaves, there was a lot of selling between plantation owners in the Caribbean, Latin America, and in the United States of America. So the question is, are you purely a so-called Black American? Because like I said, somewhere down your ancestry could be a Negro that was born like in Brazil somewhere and then set up, sold, and then some Portuguese slave master got a colleague in South Carolina somewhere, who's also a plantation owner, and the damn Portuguese slave owner told his, took a trip to South Carolina somewhere, met his business partner, his colleague in South America, and said, you know what? Oh, you need some slaves? Oh, man, I got some slaves for you, man. I'm trying to get rid of some slaves, man. I got too much, man. Here you go. Boom. And come to find out, boom, a Negro from Brazil was sent up to South Carolina, and his name was changed to Tito Johnson. And come to find out, Tito Johnson is your great grandfather. But you want to call yourself, a foundational Black American. I mean, hey, it's cool. You can call yourself that. If that's what you want to label yourself that, if you choose to label yourself as foundational Black American or American descendants of slaves or a native Black American, that's cool. But your great grandfather or grandmother could be from Brazil or somewhere and shipped to South Carolina to become a slave over there. Yeah. Like 10 to 15% of slaves eventually end up in America. Yes. Yeah, it's fixing to echo again, right? Yeah, this shit is funny, man. I gotta call my internet service provider, man. Sorry about that. I apologize about that. I have to let my internet service provider know that, man, because this has been happening all week, and this is pissing me off. But going back to this Latino is not Black narrative, right? Going back to that Latino is not Black narrative, are you going to say that the three females in my background are you going to say that those are not so-called Black people just because they happen to be born and raised in Colombia? Are you going to say that Carmelo Anthony, former NBA All-Star, well, he currently playing the NBA, but current NBA player who currently plays for the Los Angeles Lakers, who was an NBA All-Star several times, Carmelo Anthony, the ex-husband of actress Lala Anthony, are you going to say that brother is not a so-called Black person? Because his family is from Puerto Rico. The same goes with Lala Anthony, his ex-wife. Are you going to clearly, when you look at the physical features and the phenotype of Carmelo Anthony and Lala Anthony, you could say that they are quote-unquote Black people. But since their family are from Puerto Rico, and if the statement Latinos not Black is true, I guess they're not so-called Black people, right? Who are they? Well, they're not Black. They're Puerto Rican, which is so stupid. Because Puerto Rico, which is a territory of the United States of America, it's not an independent country. It's a territory of the United States of America. And I guess if your family is from a territory of the United States of America, that means you no longer belong to the so-called Black race, according to that argument, right? That shit is stupid, man. Okay. Joe W says it was even less than 10 to 15%. He says it was only 8 to 10% of Africans that ended up in North America. Well, regardless whether it's 8 to 10% or 10 to 15%, it was still very little so-called Black people that ended up in North America. What up, Shaka Nulu? Shaka Nulu says that you have to realize it's only Black American dummies that say they ain't Black because they not Black American. Black policing. Yeah, that you know what? Shaka Nulu. Comment of the day. Black policing. Because someone's ancestors was not born in the United States of America, therefore, according to that theory, they're not so-called Black people. This shit is so damn stupid. It is so stupid. You're utilizing an ethnicity that consists of so-called black people to say that a person is not black, which doesn't make sense. That shit does not make sense. You're taking an ethnicity that consists of so-called black people to remove the blackness of a person. Shalom, Lawrence God, shalom. What's going on, Jalen the Man Stone, what's up? That shit is so fucking stupid. And you know what I've been seeing for the past few years with this Latinos not black argument? That a lot of insecure so-called black females who have a personal anger for lighter skinned people and for people who are of Latino descent say that shit. You know what I'm saying? You have a whole lot of so-called black people, a whole lot of insecure so-called black females use that narrative because they have a personal hatred with anybody, especially a female, who is not a darker complected black American. So if you're not a darker complected or at least a quote unquote brown skin black American, then you are not a so-called black person in their book. Because they have such insecurity issues, right? That when in their minds, when they think of people of Latino descent, they're thinking of Jennifer Lopez, they're thinking of Fat Joe, they're thinking of, these mixed breed types, right? And since they're insecure because they feel like these mixed breed types, deep down inside, they feel that these mixed breed types are more attractive than they are. Therefore, they have a personal hatred towards Latino people. So now if anybody is of Latino descent, whether you look like those three girls in my back, these bitches are going to turn around and say that you're not a so-called black person. If you happen to look like Joe W, right, and have a Spanish last name, they'll say that you are not a so-called black person. Renaissance Man 2008 says, Wacky, you just hit the nail on the head. All the conversations I hear about colorism from women always goes back to sex politics, nothing more. Exactly, Renaissance Man. It goes back to sex politics. These insecure so-called black females, right? They see how so-called black males find the Jennifer Lopez's of the world attractive. They see how females of that type, Latino females of that, how black males are attracted to Latino females of that type, when in reality, so-called black males find any good-looking female attractive, regardless of their race, color, or creed. The majority of so-called black males find any attractive female attractive, regardless of where in the color spectrum that they come from. But in the minds of a lot of insecure so-called black females, they think that the majority of black males are only attracted to lighter complected females, which includes, or quote-unquote exotic-looking females, which includes the Jennifer Lopez types. So once again, like I said before, so as a result, these same insecure so-called black females have a hatred for Latinos to the point that they make up this damn theory or this damn narrative that if you are of Latino descent, then you are not a so-called black person. Although once again, the Latino is an ethnic group that consists of people of many different races. It's a very diverse ethnic group. All right. You could be like Tom Cruise, for example, because Tom Cruise, he's Latino, right? But but the racial group that he comes from is Caucasian. So you could be a Tom Cruise, right? Or you could be like Emilio Estevez, actor Emilio Estevez, right? Or Martin Sheen, who's really related to Emilio Estevez, Martin Sheen, and the whole Sheen family. They're Latino, but the racial group that they belong to within the Latino ethnicity is most likely the Caucasian race. So you could be as light as them and still belong to the Latino ethnic group, or you can look like Jennifer Lopez and still belong to the Latino ethnic group. You can look like third world Colombian and still belong to the Latino ethnic group. You can look like Joe W and still belong to the Latino ethnic group. And you can look like these three girls in my background and still belong to the Latino or Latin ethnic group. What up, Nino? What up, Nino? Yeah, thank you. You know, Nas said facts. People are trying to separate. Earlier in this video, I said conflate, which people tend to do that also. But when it comes to this Latino is not black argument, people are trying to separate an ethnic group from a racial group when it's possible that an ethnic group can consist of people of different racial groups. Because once again, what is an ethnic group? What is an ethnic group? An ethnic group is a group of people that belong to a certain culture. What is a racial group? A certain subgroups of human beings based upon their physical features. So it's possible that different physical features can belong in the same culture. If you belong in a certain ethnic group, it does not take away from the racial group that you belong to. Like, for example, technically speaking, since my parents are from the Caribbean and I'm a so-called black person, I can be labeled as an Afro-Caribbean person, right? Or a person who is of Caribbean descent. But Caribbean is an ethnicity. It's not a race. It's not a nationality. It's an ethnicity based on culture. Because people of different Caribbean countries have a similar culture. They're not all the way the same, but there's similarities, right? So Caribbean, well, technically speaking, the Caribbean is actually that's labeled as it's actually a certain location within within the specific part of the world, but it's also the term Caribbean is also labeled as an ethnic group or Afro-Caribbean, right? Or Caribbean. But guess what? There's people of different racial groups that belong to the Caribbean ethnicity. Yes. That's what I meant, Rico Tico. Yes. Caribbean is regional and cultural. Yes, it is. Same thing with Latino, regional and cultural. Yes. You're correct. You're absolutely correct. And guess what? Like I said before, whose ancestors come from the Middle East. Who come from the Middle East and specifically India, that migrated to different Caribbean countries like Trinidad, Guyana. Some migrate to Jamaica. Some migrate to Belize, Honduras. You have people who are of European descent who migrate to the Caribbean. You have people from Southeast Asia, specifically China, who their ancestors migrated to the Caribbean. Like you will see a certain group of, right, people belong to the racial group that is considered quote unquote to be mongoloid, right? And they're from Jamaica. You can go to the island. Does that mean that a so-called black person from the Caribbean person? No, it does not. Your ethnicity does not remove your race. Your ethnicity does not remove your race. I should be clear now. Yeah, man, from time to time, I keep breaking up. Your ethnicity or the culture that a person comes from does not remove their race. And the same goes for those who are of Latino descent. All right? NYC Tico Rico says Pirates of the Caribbean is real. They plundered Nicaragua and Haiti. Okay. I never knew that. Cartel says the truth is people don't want to own up to their race when it's in plain black and white. Okay. Cartel says we are all related to each other down the line in some form or another. That is true. That is a good point. You know, so if Latino is not black, are we going to say that people like Amara La Negra is not a so-called black person? You know, a lot of you so-called black people love to watch this ridiculous show called Love and Hip Hop. You know, Yo. All right. Can y'all hear me? Am I clear now? All right. Yeah, I got, my internet connection right now is just not that good. You know, what I did, I unplugged my shit and reset it. So hopefully it doesn't go out. Hopefully. But what I was saying is that, going on to what I was saying, so if if this narrative of Latino is not black argument, or better yet, let me be more specific. If it is true that if a person who is of Latino descent cannot be black, then what about singer Amara La Negra, who's on that ridiculous reality show called Love and Hip Hop? What about her? When you clearly see her physical features, you know which racial group she belongs to. But I guess maybe because she happens to be from Cuba, I think she's from Cuba somewhere, then that means that she's not a so-called black person. As of so-called black people does not exist in Cuba. Okay? If if a if a person of Latino descent cannot be a so-called if a person who is of Latino descent cannot be a so-called black person, then explain former baseball player Sammy Sosa before he got his skin bleached. All right? Before Sammy Sosa, for those of you who follow baseball, Sammy Sosa, former Major League Baseball player, former Major League Baseball All-Star, who played most of his career for the Chicago Cubs, before he bleached his skin, the motherfucker looked just like LeBron James in the face. Okay? But I guess since he happens to be from the Dominican Republic, I guess he's not a so-called black person, right? I mean, if a person of Latino descent cannot be a so-called black person, then explain David Ortiz, another former Major League Baseball star, another retired Major League Baseball player who recently got inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. For those of you who didn't hear me, like I said, what I said, I'm going to repeat myself. If the notion is true that a person of Latino descent cannot be a so-called black person, then can someone explain Mr. Big Papi, better known as David Ortiz, for another former Major League Baseball player who recently got inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame? The brother is darker than most of you motherfuckers combined. And he's from the Dominican Republic. He has that thick accent when he speaks English. I guess he's not a so-called black person, right? Come on now. Come on. Come on, man. This shit is this argument is so stupid and naive. And it's not based on actual facts. It's just based on people speaking from their own insecurities. Exactly. Exactly. Roberto Clemente, a baseball player who throughout most of his career played for the Pittsburgh Pirates, a so-called black man from Puerto Rico. So if the notion that Latino is not black is true, then I guess Roberto Clemente, as dark as melanated as his skin is, as coarse as the texture of his hair is, as broad as his nose and thick as his lips is, I guess he's not a so-called black person because he speaks his native language is Spanish, right? Exactly. Pedro Martinez. That's another one. I guess he's not a so-called black person too, right? Or I guess he's not a so-called black person either, right? Because he speaks Spanish. Shoot, I need to really pick up a book. Y'all sound real stupid when you speak. Whenever you open your mouths, you sound real stupid. I'm out of here, man.